Here it goes. It's
I see.
recording.
All right. Welcome back. This is Take a Break's first interview with my BFF, the one and only Joanna Alvarado. And I'm thankful that she has taken her time out of her busy schedule to interview and sit with me to talk to me about, the different, just her life, raising a child with special needs. And I just really wanted her perspective during this time. I know a lot of people have been going through a lot. It's been we all had a shared trauma of just the whole coronavirus and being locked down. But I started Take a Break because I have a special needs brother. So, and I've seen witness my mom during this time have a hard time. So I was always concerned, like, what can I do, or how can, we help one another without necessarily being together, but just to share a space of community, as Joanna mentioned to me before in previous conversations. So you guys are basically going to listen into what we talk about on a regular. So it's just, you guys are flies on the wall, but I really wanted her for a long time. But now we're able to do it. Yay.
Yeah. Yay.
And she's an occupational therapist. She has experience and she does this for a living as well as helping her son. So I just really wanted her input and for her to just share her story. And she has a heart to help people as well. And I just admire her authenticity and her willingness to help others and to share her story. So I'm excited. So I sent her questions last night and she said they were good. Were they really good? Or you're
Yes, they
just
are. No, they're really good questions.
okay, good.
Yeah.
I was I have her laughing because I tell her as soon as I take a shower, I go right to sleep. But I wrote the
Yeah, you
question
do.
in. Ooh, I
Or you
just not
go watch NYPD Blue.
have that's the insider NYPD Henry Simmons, yes. But yeah, I've been knowing her since we were freshmen in the ninth grade. We both went to Artesia High School. That was Yes, my mom was like, that was the best thing, because I guess she used to say I complained about moving to Lakewood. She's like, well, you're still friends with them today, so that was a good thing. It was purposeful, and I truly believe it. Like, God do place people in our lives for reasons and seasons. And, our school was a little small school, but I'm glad because it was what I needed. I don't think I could handle a big high school. I
Yeah.
like the I think looking back as an adult, like, I'm glad because we stayed focused. Like, she has a twin and it was like our real life sister, but it wasn't as fun. I thought high school was going to be just like sister. And I was like, that's TV. But the other thing was the Roger. So now that was our name. It started with a D line. But yeah, twin sister. So I've known her a long time. We have truly grown up together and stay connected.
Yeah.
But good thing because we both went to college. So, I'm glad we did go to Artesia. It's a good school now, but back in the day, our time, it really wasn't. It'll be 20 years next year, right? Our reunion is supposed to be.
Yes. But I don't know if anybody's putting anything together.
Our class is 2002. We're putting our age on blast, and our class doesn't do anything correctly. We wouldn't even go anyways. Like, Facebook is a reunion, so we're both even really on there now. So we see who we really want to see. All right, we're gonna start the interview. I can hear David in the background. We're gonna start the interview. Okay. I know I had so many questions. I feel like they're all over the place, but we're just gonna let it flow. I think one of the questions I like, first questions would be, how did you feel when you first heard that your beautiful son, that's her twin, Julian, was diagnosed with autism. So how did you feel?
Yeah. So, you know, it was a pretty sort of like, in terms of the process, like, um, I went to the doctor for his annual sort of checkup. And that was on his second around his second birthday. So it was sometime in September. And I was just telling the doctor, in terms of my concerns, and, in terms of his speech, how, I felt like there was a delay in speech. And then other concerns too, in terms of like, maybe possibly sensory, but it's hard to say with a baby at that age, because babies, they are, in terms of development, they're exploring a lot more in terms of sensory, and they're sort of developing a lot more in that area. So it was hard to say in terms of if there was any sensory things going on, but there was, uh, a speech delay. And so when I told the doctor that, he got a speech assessment done. And then when I was talking to, the speech language pathologist, she was the one that was just like, oh, have you, you know, um, inquired about services for regional services yet, or anything like that. And at that point, I had just gone through insurance. So then that's when, I was just like, okay, the therapist is sort of just like, giving me that recommendation as well. So I went through regional services too. I sort of, um, started that process at the same time as going through the insurance. So he was receiving speech therapy for a while for the speech delay. And then, I went back to the pediatrician just to, talk to her more about concerns. And I told her that, I would really like to see a developmental pediatrician at that point, because I had concerns in regards to autism, especially since, in terms of my family history, I do have, close people to me that are on the spectrum. So, when I told the doctor that, she referred me to the developmental pediatrician through insurance. And then when I visited the developmental pediatrician, that was around, I want to say like November. So it was like, a few months after I initially brought it up. And then, at that point, when I was bringing up my concerns to the developmental pediatrician, um, he said, okay, well, we can do a sort of like a comprehensive evaluation with the speech language pathologist and OT, and then also, with a psychologist. So, and then he said, the next appointment is not until January. So we had to wait a while for him to get that appointment. But in the meantime, regional services came around, and, he started to do early intervention. So he was getting early intervention services at that point until, we were going through insurance. And, with regional center, they don't actually do an assessment for autism until the child is 3 years old. So, so we had to wait for that as well. But in the meantime, we went to to that appointment in January, and then they did sort of like a full assessment and things like that. Um, and from that point, I want to say like a week or two after, that's when the social worker contacted us to give us the results. And then we went to her office, and then she told us, that, based on their findings and their results, that, they see a diagnosis of a mild autism. So, when I heard that news, I had a feeling, I always had a feeling that that's what was going on with Julian. but it was still hard for me to process, so it was still difficult to process when somebody is telling you this. So initially, like, I had all kinds of emotions, and I think one of the first emotions was like, what did I do as a parent? Like sometimes you go through feelings of like guilt, and then you go through feelings of, you know, of just feeling sad. But then, I would talk to my mom, because she provides me with a lot of comfort and sort of advice and things like that. And she was just telling me, like, everything is going to be okay. You are, equipped to deal with Julian's needs, and you are getting him the help that he needs right now. So that's important, especially since you started like the early intervention. And so, I just dealt with a lot of feelings, and but I knew from that point, like, I was going in the right direction in terms of steps in helping him, so, but it was a lot to handle. It was a lot to sort of, yeah, to handle in terms of emotions and things like that. Yeah.
Yes, I know. I hear a lot of people. I think they go through those different phases of guilt and all these other things, but it's like it's not your fault. But the awesome thing is, like, you truly are equipped. You know what to do, and there's so many families that they don't know. Like, you're occupational therapist, so you do kind of know, like, okay, I need to do this, that, and that's a blessing. And Julian's, is grateful that
Yeah.
a lot of parents don't know what to do. They're just like, okay, like even my mom, she married someone with a child with special needs. So it was just like, what do
Hmm.
even me and her, it was a learning curve, and it was just like we never had to deal with this before. So I think, you being in that position really helped you a lot. So how did you cope with it? I know you said you talked to your mom
Hmm.
about it. Like,
Yeah.
what did you do?
Well, for a long time, I think because I was going through sort of like a lot of emotions and things like that. And actually, um, you know, I did feel at some points that I wasn't equipped to deal with it, to deal with, to help him. And, I think that was sort of just, you know, that is not a good place to be at and things like that. I'm glad I was able to pull myself out of it. But, you go through those feelings of feeling like inadequate, no matter, what your background is, because, you see your child like sometimes struggling and things like that. But then, you know, I think with me, what I did end up doing was I ended up sort of just building like a closer relationship to God, and I was for a long time, or for a while, I wasn't looking to God for the answers or anything like that. But now, you know, I am. And I think just having, that, sort of foundation, it sort of just helped me a lot more in sort of dealing with my feelings, and then just sort of like, being able to feel like I'm equipped to be able to help Julian. Um, and I would just I would talk to my mom. I'd also talk to, because I do have like a close family, and I appreciate them, because I would also talk to them as well. I would talk to, you know I would talk to David, and we would just have conversations and things like that. And I would say that, yeah, like communication is sort of key in sort of helping your child, especially. And I know it's hard with people that with especially with marriages and things like that. It's hard, like,
Mhm.
having to deal with that, and there's strain in sort of that relationship because of that. But it's always good to sort of just have like open communication. um, and you guys, just not me, but like, David as a father also was going through different emotions too. So it's just like, just sort of coming together, and sort of just talking about that, and then just sort of, just trying to like help our son the best way that we can, So I think definitely just sort of with coping with it, I think just having like with me, it was just like having a strong family support, and then ultimately like it was just like my relationship with God has really like brought me out of a lot, because at some points, yeah, I wasn't, it was very difficult, to deal with. It was overwhelming, and I think that's what a lot of parents feel. They feel overwhelmed, or stressed. um, and I was, I told you this, Donnie, because I was reading like an article. They were saying like in terms of with parents or with mothers who have children who are on the spectrum, their stress levels are they compared it to that of soldiers that have gone through like battle, because it is stressful, it's overwhelming, so um, so yeah, but it's like you have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself as well, and I found like that to be very important. So just sort of taking care of yourself, because if you can't do that, then you're not able to take care of anybody else, So and for a while I wasn't doing that. So like and being an OT, we talk about like self-care and sort of, a lot, that's important in terms of just, you know, that's important. So, yeah, just, doing that as well, just taking moments to yourself is important as well. So, yeah.
Yes, we always talk about self-care,
Yeah.
self-care. Joanna teased me that I am like the new self-care queen
Yeah.
because when I was a social worker, I really now understand how much self-care, like it's so important in your life. If you don't, you will burn out. So yeah, self-care, I am like, I don't know if I'm the queen yet, but yes, I'm all into
It's one of our goals for the year, Dominique.
yes.
That goal, and I think it has helped me tremendously, because like I make sure to like just sort of make time for myself, and I see a difference, in terms of my energy and just like my outlook on things. So it has helped, yeah, for sure.
I know. Yeah, I have that. Also, how can special needs families get support? Like you have a great family, tight knit family.
Mhm.
Um, what about families who don't necessarily have tight knit family or family to support them? Like, what can they do, or how can they get that type of support?
Yeah, I think definitely, there's different sort of resources out there, and there's different like sort of like community like forums, and things like that that sort of help, um, and you can always like join, those community forums, because it's nice to be a part of a community that understands what you're going through, and it helps, just to like hear what other people are experiencing in terms of the successes, and sort of just not just like the struggles, but like the successes that their child is experiencing, you know um, because of therapies, or because the parents are able to help them now, through being educated and things like that. So like I think definitely joining like a community, um, whether it be like a forum or some sort of like a blog, or even just like support groups, or anything like that, that may help. And then also, like I know like in a lot of cases, families don't know where to go if they feel like, um, something is wrong with their child, or they may see something, but then they don't know where to go. I would always, just sort of tell parents like, follow up with their pediatrician, or just go, contact sort of like regional center to get an, evaluation done.
Great
If you,
resource.
yeah, yeah. And I know it's like, and I guess it depends where your regional center is, but, even me, like, just going through sort of, um, the system and sort of trying to get my son all of these supports and things like that. It was challenging, and so like I could see that as being sort of like a barrier, like for a lot of people, so just making sure to sort of inquiring, in terms of, you know, um, what you can do to help your child, So,
Because
yeah.
you're the child's biggest advocate. And
Yes.
how advocate for Julian? What do you do to advocate for?
Well, definitely, like you, yeah, you have to sort of advocate, in terms of, services and sort of, also in terms of like, the therapies and things like that. You always, it's always important to sort of just, have your input in terms of things, and sort of sort of just being able to like gather your input to, best help your child, so just sort of just always advocating your child to get the best supports that they need to be successful. um, you know um, it's sometimes it's hard because it's like, it's a pretty big system in terms of, all these supports that can be in place for, a child with autism, but just making sure that, you are involved, and, you are sort of like an agent of sort of change, and, you are empowered to also be an active participant in your child's uh, you know, um, therapies or any sort of services that he's receiving, or he or she, so like just making sure that you are an active participant, and making sure to involve yourself as much as you can. It's sometimes it's good to step back every once in a while and have like a break, when your child does have the therapies, but making sure that you are involved and you are actively sort of just like, seeing what is helping your child. Hmm.
I agree. And again, regional center, that is a great resource
Hmm.
because they diagnose your child when your child is diagnosed young. They get services even after 18 years old, and you will get a lot of services that they offer. And
Yeah.
it does vary on which city. Like some cities are not that great, but I just know from experience living in the Inland Empire, that regional center, I don't know why, but they offered a lot of services for my brother. Like he was able to go to work, like he was really thriving in that program.
Yeah.
And he's back in Orange County and it's not the same. Like I don't like his program at all. Like
Really?
that's why I wanted to start Take a Break, because it's like they do have funding for kids with special needs, but even growing up, I remember seeing kids with disabilities or special needs, all they doing is walking around, going to the park. Like that's not helping them. That's
Hmm.
not helping them develop skills, what they can use in their life. I know some they will always be dependent on their parents forever for the rest of their life. But I just feel like we lack programs to really help them,
Yeah.
because I believe my brother could be a lot further along if they had programs like what I'm trying to create, centers to geared towards help them, try to lead a little bit normal life. Like, yeah, I don't like his program. I'm glad I don't know the name on the top of my head because I would shoot him out. But even during this time, like, it's stressful and a lot of them can't do Zoom. They don't have the attention span.
No. Yeah.
They try to talk to them. It's like, no, they need to. Yeah, I don't like his program. So that's a big reason why I want to create Take a Break, to have center based a place that they could go to, because right now they just go to a park and they get all this money from regional. Yes, I'm putting them on blast. They get all this money from regional center and they're not really helping these children. Oh, and yeah. So this is why I started what I want to start. So, but regional center do have programs, and as parents, when you see that, like I tell my mom, like she's in the process of looking for another program because that's not good at all. So, how, as you as a parent, how did you handle the lockdown, and how did you balance like work and all that with your child trying to get these services? How did you handle all that?
Yeah, it was very difficult, when COVID-19 happened because, there was a halt on services. So, um, he wasn't getting all of his services because, you know, uh, yeah, the therapist couldn't come into the home anymore. Also, um, or they couldn't, do face to face for a while or in person. So it definitely put a halt on services for him. And then also, we were trying to start him in sort of like a special education preschool program. And then that stopped because, there wasn't any in-person learning at that point. So, everything was just Zoom, and for, a 3-year-old, that was hard because he was not able to attend to anything, in terms of, the Zoom sessions or anything like that. And, in a lot of cases, it was um, us, just doing the therapy with him while it was like the therapist on the other side, telling us what to do, and things like that. And sometimes that was a bit overwhelming because, you know, um, it was hard for Julian to adjust to it because it was a change, and
They don't
um,
like you.
they don't, but it was difficult, and then it was just like it was just hard for him to even participate with the Zoom sessions, So some of the services were like placed on hold. He wasn't getting all the hours in terms of the services that he had in the past. So, it was hard because, there was a time where we felt like, yeah, he was having a lot of progress because a lot of the services that he was receiving. And then, now it's, we just saw sort of like, a regression at some point, and it's hard to see that as a parent, because it's, you want him to continue to sort of like be successful and things like that. But like, I understand because of everything that is going on. And, I still try to, um, see what he has been successful at, and like if we do see areas of regression and things like that, like we make sure to discuss that with like the therapist, and just so that everybody's on the same page, and then we could come up with another game plan in terms of like helping him, so just being very cognizant of that, and then just also, you know, understanding that, yeah, the during this time, it's going to be difficult, he is getting it now, but, he's getting some in-person services now, and, he's, going to, um, the clinic for speech therapy. He's going to start, in-person services for DIR floor time. He has ABA already in the home. So he has a lot of different services and things like that, that are starting back up again. But it's been like a whole year,
Mm-hmm.
from that, that he's starting that back up again, So, it's going to, in a few weeks, he will, sort of like start the hybrid model for in-person learning. So, um, I'm excited about that, but then it's kind of like, it is scary because of what's going on. But then I just pray about it. I put it in God's hands, you know, and, hopefully, it will be good for him. I think it will be, because yeah, it's hard. It's hard to do anything via Zoom, and kids very much need sort of like in-person services right now. And I can understand why parents may be hesitant to start, that because of what is going on. Um, so, you know, but yeah, it's difficult, I think, for anybody right now who has like a special needs child. Um, just, in terms of like the changes in services, and just having like, going from, being able to go to school, which was an important, probably, part of those children's days, to like not going to school at all and having to log into Zoom every day.
Mm.
Also just something else, because it's just like visual, like sensory overload, like, you know
Mm.
um, it's hard for kids to attend to something like that, so yeah.
I don't like doing it. Joanna had to help me with Zoom because honestly, I think this is probably my fifth or sixth time. I couldn't do this every day. Like,
Yeah.
I like it. Like, it's been a whole year. I was like, I don't have to do it for work. I was in person until December. Yeah, we're not gonna get on that. But yeah, and she does it all the time. But I will hear my coworkers who are working from home and they have children, and I can hear them talking to their kids like, "You gotta log in, you gotta log in," and I'm
Yeah.
like, I would just go crazy. Like, how can
Yeah.
I learn? I'm as an adult could not do that every day. So imagine a child. Like, I need that. I need to be in person. I need to see it. Like, not the
Yeah.
because yeah, so I was my heart was broken for the kids, and you had to all those crazy parents. Yes,
Yeah.
parents are crazy. It was just a mess. I knew it. Like, I don't know. I just was like, I felt bad for kids that are not in good situations, and you
Yeah.
know, teachers were able to really see inside the homes, but
Yeah.
what's really going on. But I just felt like teachers should be sensitive because we're all going through a shared trauma. So yeah, that's difficult. And I'm sure like 3 years old kids, like their attention span is so short. If it's not a Disney movie or their favorite shows, they're not gonna last long on a teacher talking to them. Like, I would be like, I gotta go. Like, my man can't last that long. So
No, it's
I
it's
think you guys are real peace parents.
it's difficult, and it's hard to manage, work with home life, because it's now like all combined.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like in the very beginning, it was just like, okay, there's like no sort of break from that. I think a lot of people probably experienced like burnout, because it's just like especially me. I think I experienced it at some point, because I was working, and then it was just like, I was trying to help, my son sort of like, do all of his therapy sessions on Zoom and things like that. And it's just like, by the end of the day, you're just tired, because yeah, there's no separation. It's like your work and, your home life is all in one setting right now. And it's just like you're having to deal with all of that. And yeah, it was difficult. It was hard to manage. So it still is, because I
Mm-hmm.
still am, working from home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still doing that, and um, so it's still difficult. You find ways to do it, but then it's just like it's still tiring at the end of the day, and um, you know, so that's why I'm just like, you know what, Donique, I'm gonna do this self-care sort of journey with you. I'm
Mhm.
going to make sure that I make time for
Mhm.
myself because it's important, especially right now, because yeah, you'll feel burned out real quick if you don't, if you're just constantly taking care of others and just not taking care of yourself, and even just getting caught up into work, just like, just realizing that, okay, like you have to step away from work and just sort of take care of yourself or take care of your family at some point, you know. And a lot of lines were getting blurred at that point, and it was just like, oh man, like so, just making sure to make sort of having clear boundaries and sort of just yeah, having a day off every once in a while too. I was talking to my friend about that. I was just like, you know what? Yeah, I'm probably going to have to just have a day off to myself pretty soon and just be like, you know what? I need to take a day off from
Oh,
work. No
I
reason
that.
given, just have like a sick day,
Mhm.
Um, yeah, mental
Are
health day. Yeah, yeah. Luckily
important.
for me, like I'm going to have like a week off pretty soon because of spring break. But
Right.
like that's I think, yeah, that's gonna be like a nice sort of week off. And I'm just gonna try to do like yeah, a lot of self-care that week.
That's all the time, self-care, self-care. But Joanna is smart. She orders those dinners that come get mailed to your house.
Yeah.
So that helps with cooking. I mean, I'm a single lady, so and I still don't like cooking. I don't cook every day. But I admire, and I'm like, that's so smart. She's like, I do a blue apron, giving them a shout out. We one day I'll be able to represent them. They get a
Yeah,
blue apron and they have other meals. But I was like, that's so smart to, if you can, like that helps out a lot. So you
it
have one
does.
to worry about is what's for dinner.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I do that, and it does help because it's like you just have the ingredients there ready for you, and it's mostly actually David's the one that does like the cooking.
That's even better. Have and healthy.
Yeah,
That's even better. Having
yeah,
a partner, imagine a single parents. Like I think I read something on Facebook when I was on there, and my heart was just breaking. Like, how do people do this alone? And so many people lost their jobs, and
yeah,
it was just a lot. Like, you know,
yeah.
it was just so much stress, and
Mhm.
you kind of led into the question. Into one of my questions was, how do you practice self care and mental health?
Yeah.
What are some
Well,
do? I mean, we talk about them all the time,
yeah.
but
Well, like I definitely what I ended up doing in the for the new year in January, or I think it was before that, Donnie, but I just logged off of Instagram. I
we
noticed
both
that yeah, yep. I noticed that it was taking up a lot of my time, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna give it a break, and I'm glad I did because what I ended up doing was I ended up doing a lot more of the Bible plans and things like that through this Bible app that me and Donique are on. And those really helped in terms of just, sustaining me and then just sort of like feeding, my mind sort of like really sort of like healthy um, sort of things mentally, in terms of, anything in terms of any situation in my life, So like I would sort of do like the Bible plans on, special needs parenting. And then I would also do things, in regards to just like, having like a busy life, being a busy mom, also like anxiety or feeling overwhelmed or, even depression, because I think, especially during the pandemic, I think a lot of people are going through that, in terms of like their mental health and things like that. So just making sure to like take care of yourself. And that was one way that really helped me was just like doing those Bible plans and just focusing on what God has to say to me in terms of, what's going on in my life and what I can do, so just looking to God for the answers a lot more. And it has really helped, in terms of my mindset and my outlook and what my plans are, in going forward and things like that, and just sort of like just making sure to take care of myself. Also, me and Donique were talking about exercising, but
Oh yeah.
it's tough to do. But I think, definitely just like starting that up again, and then just, eating healthier too, because for a while I wasn't eating very healthy, and, that has helped as well, just in terms of like the self-care. Um, but that's what
Yeah,
has helped me.
partner.
And then
So
also talking to Donique.
we're
Ta-
accountable.
yes.
And I share with her, like, I went exercising today. I felt good. Or she's always encouraging me. And now, like, I see that mental health, you got to take care of it. I had a very stressful job and I had to move to something else because I was lagging in my taking care of my mental health and self-care. So now, like, everybody who knows me or even my coworkers know, like, I take that very seriously. Like, so another coworker reached out to me and was like, is your job stressful? What you doing now? And I'm like, no. And I think I really protect my mental health. I just need to get better with the exercising, eating right, but she really helps me. Like, she's my accountability partner. So you got to get one of those. And I said, after this week, we'll be right back to exercising. So I'm going
Yes.
to pull out that Jillian Michaels DVD.
Yep.
My sticker.
Yep.
It's time to be healthy. Like, both of our grandmothers, passed on. In minority communities, they don't like going to doctors. We were talking about this yesterday. Both of my grandmas had diabetes, high blood pressure, and that's common in a lot of, minority homes. We don't have a trust of the doctor, and that's rightfully so. In the past, they haven't been right to people of color. So we talked about personally, like, just taking better care of ourselves. And I saw Joanna and her sister, like, they became like very active and they weren't big, but they still lost weight and really changed their lives. And I was always inspired by that. And they always encouraged me, but I was just like, oh, I'm just a little thick. Like, no, babe, you need to, as I'm getting older, I'm noticed like, no, you have to really, like, it's becoming so important to me now that I think I'm more serious than anything in my life. Like,
Yeah. Well, I want to, when I think when I did lose a weight initially, that was like a time when I was in college and things like that. But like, I feel now like it's, I mean, and it was good that I was doing that. I was taking care of myself. But I feel like with now it's a bit different because, yeah, I am older. I have kids and things like that. But I feel like it's, it's healthier the way I'm going about it too, because I'm like, okay, like it's more of like a lifestyle change, and it's not about just dieting and just, things like that. It's about, just making the right choices when it comes to eating. But that's something totally different.
right.
Like
But
we're talking
all
about.
self-care, because it does affect your
Yeah.
mental. Exercise really improves your mental.
Yeah.
Eat right improves your mental. Like,
Yeah.
it helps brain fog and
Yeah.
all. It,
It does.
like, it does help. The doctors say eat right, exercise, and you're just like, what? But it really does help. Like, I told you,
Yeah.
one day I went for a walk before work when I was working. I'm still working from home some days, but I felt really good and had a really good day. My body, I was so energized, and it's colder now, but I won't walk in that one day. But now, like, I told her I worked out twice a week, so my goal is 3 times a week. So I don't have no gym membership. I'm not going out to places like that anymore. It's still Corona out there, but like, I tell her, like, because you need accountability partner to push you, and she really does help me. So I think that's my goal, is 3 times a week, and then gradually, more. But exercise is very important to your self-care. Like, if you're in a stressful job, you need to, because we still are, you know, working for people that probably don't like, and you need to get that stress out, because you'll just get sick. So exercise is important. So we talk about that a lot, and it does help you.
It does.
Yes. So we talked about a whole lot. So I want to ask you, what I just want to get honest with you. What are your fears? I know a lot of special needs parents have that fear. What are your fears about, the future or stuff like that?
David
I
in the background.
say,
David, they
yes.
see you.
I don't know why you should have been in the room.
Hilarious.
It's okay. You just made a cameo.
He did.
You're all in my spot.
He said his spot.
Yeah, I think some of my biggest fears is like, I think for me is like Julian feeling like he's not understood by me or anybody, and then I don't ever want him to feel that way with me. I want him to feel like I understand, and that you know like I accept him for who he is no matter what. um because he is who he is.
Right,
He's Julian, and
right.
I'm not trying to, I don't ever want him to be somebody that he's not. So I want him to feel that. And like, I want to share this story with you because one day when I was coming home, Julian was just like running in the front yard or whatever, and there was just like a young man that was passing by, and I really do think this was like, God sent, because it was just very, just like a strange like coincidence. But Julian was just like running in the yard, and this young man was just like walking on the side of our house, and he was like picking flowers and just like smelling them. And then, he said hi to Julian. And then, Julian didn't say anything. He just kept like running around and stuff. And then I just went up to him, and I was just like, oh, hi. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry you didn't say hi. And I told him, I said, he has autism. And then the young man said, oh, he has autism. And I said, yeah. He said, well, I have autism. And I said, oh, really? And he said, yeah. And then he told me, he's going to be okay. He said that right away to me. And I was just like, oh, I was like, yeah. I was like, thank you and then he was just like, he'll be okay. You know, and then I'm like, okay. And he said, oh, he's young. He's in the early stages. And I'm like, yeah. And then, I was just talking to him for a little bit. And then he was just like, what I wish my mom did. And I said, well, what is that? He said, I wish my mom never placed any limitations on me.
Wow.
Yeah. And I said, oh, I was just like, yeah. She was like, he said, don't limit him. Don't place any limitations on him, you know? And, and then, I think that him just saying that, it just sort of just really, spoke to me, because yeah, like, in this world, a lot of people view children with autism, and then they sort of, they have this view that they're limited in some way, but they're not. Like, we shouldn't place limits on them. You know,
No, we should.
yeah. And so he told me that, and he was just like, I think he just sort of like assured me that everything was going to be okay, you know, and I really do think that was sort of just like, you know, a godsend. Like God sent me, you know, sent that message to me for a reason, you know, sent him over, you know, along our path for a reason. We cross paths for a reason, you know, and so, you know, like, you know, I really appreciated that, you know, and he just like hearing him say that, you know, and then, um, you know, like I know Julian is going to have, you know, struggles and things like that. And, you know, I think it's important us as parents to sort of understand our child's abilities, but also not place limitations on them, expose them to as much as you can, you know, don't let that stop you from taking them out or doing anything like that, because, you know, um, they deserve to have those same experiences, you know, even though you may have to modify some things and stuff like that, but they deserve to like be out in the world and do, you know, do things that other, you know, neurotypical people are able to do. So yeah, don't place limitations.
That's
Definitely,
a
you know. Yeah.
quote. Well, that's not a quote, but that's just with anyone and anything. Like,
Yeah.
so many people with autism are like super genius. Like, I believe Rent is like, he see you do something one time, he knows how to do it. And growing, even as a teenager, I used to tell my mom, like, he's smarter than what you guys really give him credit for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so don't place, you know, limitations on him. And I think now she's like, all those years you were right. Like, yes, like you cannot, but Julian, he's gonna be fine. Like, because you're doing early intervention, and I think a lot of parents didn't have that, especially in the 80s and before. But
Yeah.
now we have so much research and so many things to really help, and you're doing the right job. And that was, I call that, over Oprah says it too, God moment, for that gentleman to walk and to tell you like his story. And that was inspirational, and that's what you needed to hear. And I appreciate your authenticity, and also how honest you are with sharing, because I find that so many parents don't talk about their child diagnosis or anything. Like, they're ashamed, and it, you know, and I experienced that with my own family. Like, they're embarrassed, they're ashamed, and they don't want to talk about it, you know, depending on the level, because there's high functioning and there's, you know,
Yeah.
other on the spectrum. And the ones that are not high on the spectrum, you could tell when some people, they just, I don't know how they do it, but it's just like they completely ignore it, or they don't.
Yeah. Well, there's a stigma, especially in our community.
Right.
And, you know, there's a stigma when it comes to, autism or any sort of, um, you know, disability, I think, you know. So I think there's definitely a stigma involved, and just sort of just, you know, providing a lot more education, just providing people with awareness and things like that on ways that they can help their child and help themselves. It's going to help, you know, diminish it, you know. So like, yeah, I definitely, uh, I definitely think, like what you're doing, like sort of just having these conversations and just like opening up, you know, and talking about experiences and things like that will hopefully, you know, help sort of our community realize that, okay, yeah, you know, it is pretty prevalent. And, you know, there's actually, you know, in terms of, you know, when you see statistics and things like that, you know, it takes, you know, Black and Latino children, they're diagnosed at a lot, you know, a later stage, you know, versus, you know, their counterparts, you know, when it comes to autism, you know. So just knowing that, you know, they get diagnosed, you know, a lot later, and in many cases they miss out on those sort of essential sort of services like the early intervention, because, they get diagnosed a lot later, so just like providing education to our community, making sure that they know, what the signs are, also, who to go to when they have these concerns and things like that. Also advocating, because we do face barriers, in our community when it comes to going, to, professionals with our concerns and things like that, there's a clear disparity, so you really have to advocate sometimes and tell them like, no, these are my concerns. I want an assessment done,
Right.
because I had to do that. I had to tell them. I was just like, I really, because they will sometimes just be like, oh, well, it could be something else. Let's wait. But, if you feel in your heart like you really want to have your child assessed, and then, yeah, you really have to advocate. And in our community, that's one thing that we have to do, is we have to advocate for our children, and for ourselves,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's across the board.
Yeah.
But special needs, like, we have to fight for everything, for the right services, and it's just that way of life. But you have to advocate, because your child deserves these services, and early intervention is one of the biggest things that helps children in the long run, because there's so many children who go off and live amazing lives, like go to college, get great careers, get married. They can, lead a normal, so-called normal life, because I don't think anything is normal a part of life. It's no perfect and no normal, but quote unquote. But it is possible, and people are doing it when they get the right help and the right early.
Yeah, well, the thing is too, in terms of, our community and things like that too, like if they're, in many cases, I feel like if people aren't diagnosed or they're misdiagnosed, sometimes it leads to institutionalization. You see a lot of our, our young men and men, either in prison or in, mental health institutions, but they're not diagnosed. They can be on the autism spectrum, but they were never diagnosed. So I feel like just, yeah, in many cases, like, we need to sort of just advocate for ourselves and just make sure that, there's more awareness out there, there's more education, there's more, there's ways for us to get services, and yeah, we may have to fight for it, but we can do that. We have to.
No, it's
Yeah.
true. We keep saying our community, people know when we say that, but it's true. Like, I remember growing up where the boys were geniuses, and I think the schoolwork was just too boring. They didn't have the right teachers who knew about kids in urban areas, and sometimes they will put them in special classes that really don't need to be in there, and then some that do need to be in there, they don't put them in there, and they start acting up and getting involved sometimes in the streets, and the prison pipeline is real.
Yes. Yeah.
And
It
yes,
is.
really be on our sons, our boys, and that's why I appreciate, like, you're not playing. You're like, I'm getting everything that he needs, and that's, you're a model parent of helping your son and giving him those services, and it's like you're going to fight for it, because we can't have any more boys getting like lost in the system. I just saw a documentary. It's a Hidden Colors, and they were talking about the same thing we're talking about, and it was just showing how the school system kind of failed minorities, boys, like, let them fall out the system, but it helped the girls, and you kind of see us girls going to college and doing all these things, and the boys kind of like struggling behind us. So that was in that documentary. But I'm glad you brought up that point, because you do see that a lot, and heartbreaking because you're just like, they just needed guidance, or they had, ADHD. And I saw that as a preschool teacher. Like, don't put them on drugs. Like, give them some curriculum that we could use. I think almost, sorry, but school is kind of like useless to me. Like, I just feel like, depending on what school you go to, but a lot of urban areas, like, school is useless. You're not really learning anything that you could really apply to your life. And if you're not in the right neighborhood, you're not going to get the quality. So it's really sad, So but I'm glad, you're an advocate, and as a parent, you have to fight for the best of the best and the best. So I see that you do that. That's what I thought. Like, Joanna, like, I would love to bring her on to give other parents.
Yeah. And you know what? I never saw myself like that kind of person. Like I'm never like an outspoken person or like, or anything like that. But like for my son, I had to be. I was just like, no, like you were going to get him assessed. I was just like, I want an assessment done, so it's just like, yes, it forced me to sort of, have to do that, and I appreciate, that's one thing too. Like I had to become more assertive, and just learn to be, outspoken in terms of just, telling anybody like my concerns or anything like that, but, yeah, definitely just, you have to advocate for your child and your family, and, you, once you do that too, you feel empowered, you have a sense of empowerment. And then, you are involved and you just doing that, you're involving yourself in your child's care and things like that. So it's empowering. So I'm all about like sort of empowerment, especially when it comes to families, because you're ultimately going to be the one that's going to be there for your child through it all. You're going to be the major support. Therapies will come and go. Like it is, they're not going to have therapy like their whole life. Eventually it'll go away and you're going to be the one there. So that's going to have to support your child, so
right. Tools.
So yeah, so you definitely, as a parent, it's important that we involve ourselves, in our child's care, and then we make sure that, we're trying to learn how to best support them, So yeah.
I think you're doing an awesome job, and Julian is blessed to have you because you are, advocating for him.
Yeah. I'm blessed that Julian is in my life. Like I feel like he's such a blessing, like I know that, God chose him for a reason, like to be my son, and it's a part of, I know it's a major part of my purpose in this life, so yeah.
No, and I think you're doing a fine job. And I have one last question. It's my last one. And what are your hopes and dreams for Julian?
Well, I definitely hope, that Julian, is just happy. That's one of, I just want him to be happy, and I want him to always feel supported, and I want him to feel successful at everything he does. And yeah, like that young man said, I don't want him to feel limited or anything like that, Like I know there may be a time in his life where he may feel that, but I want him to be able to overcome that and know that he is able to overcome it and just be like the best Julian that he can be. And I want him to be independent. I want him to be as independent as he can be, just be able to do things on his own, like I'll always be there to support him, but it's important that, he feels, he feels successful in this life, and he feels like uh, he feels independent as well. So those are my hopes and dreams for him. I just want him to be happy.
Yeah. And he will be, and I know you're going to be there rooting him on, being his advocate. So I just would like to thank Joanna for her time. It was so much. You gave so many good pointers and resources that I know this will help so many parents. So I think the main thing, so they won't feel alone, I think like in this community, we're seeing a little bit more now. People are talking about it, but especially during this time, I think we need to build a stronger community to help. A lot of people suffer in silence, and
Yeah.
I just whatever I could do to try to help that. And I've seen it, I talked to you and my other coworkers at work who have children with special needs, and even my mom during this time. I was just like, what can be done? And I think having these conversations, because we're still technically we're in the not we're still in a pandemic. I don't want to say quote, but
Yeah.
we're not locked down. But I think these conversations will really help people who just so they won't feel alone or lost. So I appreciate your time and thank you for sharing with us. And you know,
Yeah. Well, thank you for
you-
having me, Donique.
yes, I just wanted you guys to hear our conversations, and I was like, oh my gosh, like Joanna, you have so much to share, and I just had to put you on, and I'm thankful that she said yes as my first guest. She's a really good friend because she supports my crazy dreams and ideas wholeheartedly. Like,
Yeah.
what
Well,
are
they're
you?
not crazy. They're good ideas, and they're good dreams, and it comes from a good heart, because you want to help people, and it's very much a need right now, especially during this pandemic. So it's good that you're having these conversations, and you're sharing other people's stories when it comes to having any a special needs child. So I appreciate you, Donique, giving us a
Yes,
platform, and
yes,
also building a community. So it's important that we build a community, because we can support each other too.
yes. As parents, as well as I'm a sibling of a special needs, brother. So I'm like, we're in all this together. Like, it's a whole family. It's not just one person. Like, it takes a whole village to help children, period. But yeah, I just want people to share their stories. So I'm glad that Joanna's number one, the first one, and we have more great interviews because she already, raised the bar so high, not to put pressure, but we're just thankful that she's sharing her story, and you'll see more of her in the future. But thank you guys. This is Tab first interview, and it has been amazing. And I just feel like you gave so many pointers and sharing your heart and your story. Sharing your story truly helps other people. And I know it's going to bless and help so many people's lives. So I thank you for being honest and authentic and sharing your story. So we'll
Oh,
do
thank
this
you.
again. So thanks from Take a Break. Bye. Good night.